Hello and welcome to the NBA DFS Slate Breakdown for Tuesday, November 21st. It's going to be an interesting one. We got a 5-game slate, so we're going to need to make some decisions as far as what chalk to follow, what chalk not to, and what other plays are out there. So we're going to go over all of that, but before we do, come join us at LionStar. $39.99 per month gets you access to everything we do. All the props, all the DFS stuff, all the tools, whatnot you need to succeed in DFS. Now let's get into this slate. As we talked about, we got a 5-gamer. Interesting game on hand is this Pacers versus Hawks game. 252 total. The next is Utah and Lakers. So those are the games that are getting most of the ownership. But let's dig in and see what gems we can find. All right, so Trae Young, point guard. I mean, there's not much to say. It's a game we love. Super high-paced game. Alert score is off the charts. Matchup data is off the charts. He's in a good spot. I'm not going to try and talk you off of him. Jordan Clarkson at 2K less. Doesn't quite have the ceiling that Young does, but I still do like him quite a bit as a play, and I'm going to get a lot of him versus the Lakers. He's had very, very good last week or so. Pretty much since George took over as the starting point guard, Clarkson has gone nuts. So I think 40s is a real good possibility, and when he's shooting the ball as well as he is right now, you could get into the 50s versus a Lakers team that doesn't always have the best defense in the world. So I think Clarkson is interesting. D'Lo, getting a little too much ownership for me. However, if LeBron James is out, he is questionable right now. I see some paths where I would like Russell, but as it stands now, I don't love it. Tyrese Halliburton, what can you say about him? The dude is crushing lately. 10.3K is just fine. It is a game environment that we absolutely love. And if the Pacers have a chance to win this game, which they are only 4-point underdogs, it's likely because Halliburton goes nuts. Keontae George. What can I say about this kid? He's been very good. Flirts with 30 every night so far. 5.2K is totally fine. I'm interested. Not going to go overboard. We haven't seen much of a ceiling game out of him yet. You know, he's been very good with assists. Points haven't totally been there, but he can also pick up, a steal a game or so and give you some different ways to score. I am absolutely interested in him. Other guys I'm interested, lower owned, Darius Garland. 8,300. Look, his median projection won't change much without Donovan Mitchell. However, his ceiling changes dramatically. This is a guy that can put up, 12, 13, 14 assists with scoring 20 points without Mitchell there. So I think he's very interesting, and I think there's some real paths to his success. And going at low ownership, I'm definitely going to be taking some swings on him. I've also bet him. I laddered his assist up from what his line was from 6.5 all the way up to 12, and also took 10 assists with a double-double for plus 340 on him. So I'm definitely kind of bullish on him in this matchup in this game. Jaden Springer, this is a low-owned punt, absolute punt dart throw, but he has started getting a little more minutes with the team, working 20 to 25 minutes. He's been able to produce at 3,500. If he's able to put up, 19 to 21, there's a reason to play him. My issue with him is I don't know how much ceiling there is with him. I don't know how many paths he has to playing, 24, 26 minutes outside of him just, say, shooting the lights out of the ball or something like that. So while I like it, I have reservations if it's really that great of a play due to the possible ceiling. Craig Porter is what I want to go over. So Donovan Mitchell is out. That led to Craig Porter playing some extra minutes last game. Now, Karis LeVert is also questionable. So if LeVert is out, I think Craig Porter plays a lot of minutes. He likely will be kind of chalky then but he's been very, very efficient and producing very, very well on a fantasy per minute standpoint. So I think he's interesting. He's just started getting more minutes, played 16, played 25. Earlier the year, played 22. Every time he's got over 20 minutes, he's been in that 24 plus fantasy point category. So I think he's interesting. I think he gets around 20 again. Who really knows? But going low owned, he's another value piece that I at least find interesting. And if LeVert is out, there's a real path to him succeeding. And let's get over to FanDuel. Point guard, high owned, Trae Young, Clarkson, Russell. Oh, sorry, I meant DraftKings. High owned here. Young, Brown, George. We haven't talked about Brown yet. 5,500, I get it, because he can hit mid-30s fantasy points. I just don't love the spot, because I also think that mid-30s is about his ceiling. You know, he's likely not going to go too much over that, how the team is currently constructed and his usage. Now, I don't hate the play. I just think 30% owned is too much. I'm going to have a little not getting close to that type of ownership on him. And shooting guard, THT, Austin Reeves, Eric Gordon are the three high owned. I do not love THT. THT is in a similar spot as Peyton Pritchard was yesterday. He's a guy that can, produce at a decent fantasy per minute standpoint, but he is coming off the bench and has to either get hot and play extra minutes to really produce. And that is my issue with him. He just hasn't really been doing that. And at high ownership, I'm more likely to get away from him. So Craig Porter, very similarly priced and similar output per minute. THT is absolutely a better play, just more history and consistency of these higher outputs. But everybody's here. And there is as much likelihood of him putting up 20 as, Porter. But everybody's there, and 20 is just not going to get it done. You're going to need 30 plus, and he simply just doesn't do that off the bench often. He did last game, but that was a game that went into OT, 137 to 140. He played 30 minutes instead of his 20 minutes. So I don't love it. I understand why people are going there. At high ownership, I might go away. Austin Reeves at 5,700, I think, is interesting. He is a guy that can, if he's playing 30 minutes, can get over that 40 fantasy point mark. So I understand why people are going there, and I get it on DraftKings. I don't love it on FanDuel. I think he's a bit too expensive on FanDuel. But there's definitely paths to him succeeding in this matchup. He just needs to play a couple extra minutes. The one thing I will say is his minutes are fairly variable due to the fact that he's coming off the bench. He plays 26 one game, plays 29 the next, plays 25 the game after that. So it's hard to project when a guy is like that, but I think he's interesting. Get over to FanDuel, shooting guard, Clarkson, Russell, and George. We have talked about all three of those. Let's talk about some lower-owned guys. Buddy Hield, I think, is interesting. Buddy Hield is in, a similar spot as, say, THT or Reeves or Porter. He is coming off the bench, but he is in a game environment we really, really like. And if he gets hot, he has 40-point upside, 30-point upside at 4,900. I think he's very interesting. Minutes are the issue here. He plays 21 minutes to 30 minutes, depending on the game. If he gets hot and he plays 30, he could break the slate. Strus, probably a little bit expensive here. I will go out and say that to start. But without Donovan Mitchell, usage has to go somewhere. Scoring has to go somewhere. And I think having Garland there and Mitchell out helps Strus a little bit more. Garland's a very good passer. Strus can shoot the ball. So that's kind of a match made in heaven that I like. And I'm going to have a little bit of that combo and Strus without Garland as well. Bogdanovic, 5,800. Look, the guy can do a lot of stuff for fantasy basketball, so I am interested. Probably will have a little bit. He's going low owned, and he can be a difference maker off the bench. We're going to have to find that guy that comes off the bench today and puts up 30, 40 fantasy points. Bogdan, in a super good game environment for him, is one that absolutely could do that. So I am definitely interested in some Bogdan. And let's go over to small forward now. Bruce Brown, DeAndre Hunter, Jalen Johnson. All right, so Hunter, I don't love Hunter. He's 4,800. I absolutely understand the path to success here. He can easily get 30 fantasy points, and that is what is so enticing for him. My issue is that he could also get 10 or 13 just as easily as 30 plus, and I don't love the output that he's had lately. His minutes have been all over the place. While I do think he is likely to get 30 to 32 minutes, he is a guy that has been producing at 0.63 fantasy per minute over his last 5 starts, 0.73 over his last 20. So he's just not efficient at fantasy scoring, and that's my issue with everybody going there. Not only do you need him to get the minutes, you need him to outproduce his fantasy points per minute, and I just don't love taking the choice. That chance at high ownership, 30% owned, I just think is too much. I'm going to have a little, not very much. Jalen Johnson. Look, he has passed to upper 40 fantasy points. He has done it a couple times. He does it mostly in higher pace games, which this is. So I think it's a very interesting spot for him in a game that is likely to get out into transition a lot. He is a guy that can score fantasy points in a lot of different ways. Steals, blocks, rebounds, scoring the ball. I think there's a real path to him succeeding in this matchup, and I'm pretty interested in him. Lauri Markkanen, I do think his price is starting to get up there a little bit. 8.6K versus where I've talked about him constantly is the lower 8Ks. But it is a very good matchup. And he's a guy that can put up 50, 60 fantasy points, and at 8.6K on a day with that, value is kind of hard to come by. I think that he could be one of the higher salary guys we're going with on more of a balanced type lineup. Buddy Hield, Paulo Banchero. Look, another guy, 50 point, 55, 57 point upside. And he's in a matchup where he may be able to get a couple extra rebounds than he normally does. He's already a proficient scorer. And I like his chances for 40 plus today at low ownership. Tobias, he's another guy that's he's been consistent, has some, chances to 40 plus fantasy points, which you really do need at 7K. And I'm interested in a game that's likely to be close. He could play 36 plus minutes. See him get up to 38 routinely, and he can definitely produce at those levels. So I'm interested. Gonna have a little. I just frankly think he's going a little bit low owned. Scotty B. Got to talk about Scotty Barnes here. So similarly to Lauri Markkanen, he's just going way overlooked today. Look, it's a guy that is constantly flirting with 50 fantasy points and has ceilings of, 67, 70, can really, really be a difference maker to a fantasy team. And he's going low owned. His matchup is fine. While it's not the highest, point total of the night, and that's why it's going very overlooked, I'm very, very interested. I think you could go studs from other teams and some of those role players or guys coming off the bench in that Pacers and Hawks game, and you're wildly different than everybody with similar upside and similar projections. So I think he's very interesting, and I'm going to definitely have some Scotty Barnes at 9K with the ceiling that he's had. And get over to DraftKings, small forward, high owned, Bruce Brown, Franz Wagner, Lauri Markkanen, Franz. I think he's a little cheap on DraftKings. Don't mind getting there. I don't love it with it being a lower scoring game. But look, the guy is kind of like Tobias Harris, where he's constantly in that mid-30s fantasy points, consistent, with a ceiling of, they can get into the 40s. So I get going there. Absolutely. High-owned power forward on DraftKings. We got Lauri Markkanen, Jalen Johnson, and Mo Wagner. So Wagner is the only one we talked about. Wagner, look, he's fine. He's only going to play 20, 24 minutes. He's a fantasy point per minute guy, so he's projecting okay. I just don't love it. I just don't know if there's a true ceiling there for him. On DraftKings, highest owned power forwards, DeAndre Hunter, Jalen Johnson, Evan Mobley. Look, I really do like Mobley today. Without Donovan Mitchell, he plays very well. Usage bumps, scoring bumps, rebounding bumps, all of that. So it makes sense that he is higher owned. I will have some. Marketing, I'll have some. John Collins, haven't talked about him yet. Look, we talked about it when Kessler got hurt, that if Collins slides into the center position, he's much better at, fantasy or at DFS. He has a way bigger ceiling, and we have now seen that. 40 points versus Portland, 39 versus Phoenix, 37 versus Phoenix. Now he's in a good matchup versus the Lakers. I definitely like John Collins. Dual position eligibility. I'm definitely going to get to a decent amount of him in a game environment that we like as well. I really like a lot of Jazz today. Paulo, we talked about. Tobias, we talked about. Scotty Barnes, we talked about. So we will just move it on to center. Sorry. Oh, yeah, we did talk about others. All right, so center, high owned, we got Mobley, Capella, and John Collins. All three of them I like. And we'll have Capella, game environment we love, lower owned piece of that compared to the, Halliburtons or Trays. So definitely am intrigued there. Goga. Gotta talk about Goga here. Look, the guy has started 8 games now. 2 40-point games, 1 30-point game. So we've seen, some nice games out of him. He's producing at a 1.2 fantasy per minute clip over this span, and I think you gotta be a little bit interested in him on a slate where there's not a ton of value. A little bit lower price center that has a nice ceiling is very, very intriguing to me, and I'm gonna have a little bit of Goga. Now, he is only playing 22 minutes most nights, but if he gets one of those 26 nights, he can really produce. He had 22 minutes 2 nights ago and still put up 33 fantasy points. I think there is a path to him still going over 30 at his 22 minutes, but for him to get into the 40, we really do want one of those 26-minute nights, and he gets there by playing well, or Mo Wagner getting into foul trouble. Those two guys pretty much are just splitting the center position minute-wise. So I like the path there, and I think he's an interesting low-owned option. And let's look at DraftKings here. Capella, Wagner, Joel Embiid. I don't love Joel Embiid. The matchup versus Jared Allen is actually a little bit of a tougher one for him. He's had some big games versus Cleveland, but most of those have been when Jared Allen has been out, not Jared Allen in. So I think Jared Allen does enough just to slow him down. And on a day where we don't have much value right now, I'm finding it hard to get to Joel Embiid. and get over to, we already went over DK. So that'll do it for us today, guys. 5-gamer. We will be back tomorrow. There is a very big slate for tomorrow. I'm also going to try and drop the NFL Thanksgiving DFS video today. So hopefully that will free me up Wednesday to be able to do the Sunday one, as I'm trying to not work Friday if I don't have to. All right, guys. Please like, comment, and subscribe. I'll be back tomorrow. Talk to you later. Adios. Good luck.